The moment I walked through the door, I knew something was wrong. Not because of some grand, dramatic sign, but because of the smell. The house smelled empty. Not of dinner cooking or a candle burning, but of absence. Like the air itself had stopped carrying warmth. I dropped my keys on the table and called out, "Odette!" My wife's name echoed back to me, unanswered. Then I saw it. A plain white envelope propped up against a half-empty glass of water on the dining table. My name was written on it in her neat, precise handwriting. I swallowed hard, my heartbeat picking up. I reached for the envelope, and as I tore it open, my fingers shook. Inside was a short note, just a few lines, and beneath it, the papers that would officially end our marriage. "Graham, I filed for divorce. I won't be here when you get home. Please don't try to call me. I'll send someone for the rest of my things soon." That was it. No explanation, no closure. I stared at the words until they blurred together, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My hands gripped the edges of the paper so tightly my knuckles turned white. I felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open and I was falling into a place I never thought I'd be. How? Why? We had problems, sure, but nothing that couldn't be fixed. At least that's what I thought. But clearly, Odette had been thinking differently. I sank into a chair, my mind racing. What had I missed? What had I ignored? And then the worst thought of all crept in. Had there been someone else? I sat there for what felt like hours, replaying every conversation, every distant look, every time she had brushed me off with a distracted, "Later, later, later, later" had never come. A buzzing sound jolted me from my thoughts. My phone. A message. I hesitated before picking it up. Unknown number. "I know you have questions. Meet me tomorrow at 6, the coffee shop on Birch Street. You deserve to know the truth." I read the message twice, my pulse hammering. Who is this? How did they know? And most importantly, what truth was I about to uncover? I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the divorce papers, the cold finality of Odette's words, the empty space in our home where her presence used to be. My mind kept replaying every little moment, searching for the cracks I had been too blind to notice. Had she been unhappy for a long time? Had I been a fool, believing in something that was already gone? The message from the unknown number sat on my phone screen like a ticking time bomb. "I know you have questions. Meet me tomorrow at 6, the coffee shop on Birch Street. You deserve to know the truth." At first, I thought it might be a cruel joke, some scam, some mistake. But the more I thought about it, the more a gut feeling told me that whoever had sent it wasn't lying. Someone out there knew something, and if I didn't show up, I'd be left in the dark forever. By the time the sun came up, I had already made my decision. The coffee shop on Birch Street was a place I hadn't been to in years. It was small, tucked between a dry cleaner and an old bookstore. The kind of place where people went to work on their laptops or have quiet conversations away from the noise of the city. As I stepped inside, the scent of freshly brewed coffee hit me, but my nerves kept me from enjoying it. I scanned the room, and then I saw her. A woman, mid-40s, dark auburn hair pulled into a loose bun, wearing a navy blazer over a crisp white shirt. She looked up as I approached, her face calm but unreadable. "Graham?" she said, motioning to the chair across from her. "Sit." I hesitated but obeyed, sliding into the seat across from her. Up close, I could see the tension in her expression, the way she pressed her lips together like she was holding back something heavy. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice lower than I expected. She inhaled sharply, then leaned in slightly. "My name is Celeste," she said, "and I know why your wife left you." My stomach twisted. "How?" She hesitated, studying me for a moment before speaking again. "Because I was there when she made her decision." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean?" She folded her hands together on the table. "I was at a party a few weeks ago, a private gathering. Your wife was there too. She didn't see me, but I saw her. And I heard her talking to someone. A man." Something inside me tightened. "Who?" Celeste's eyes flickered with something close to pity. "His name is Wesley." The name didn't register immediately, but then it hit me like a truck. Wesley. Odette's coworker. The guy she always talked about but claimed was just a friend. The air around me felt thinner, like I couldn't get enough oxygen. She was with him? Celeste nodded slowly. They were in the garden, just outside where most people were. I was walking past when I overheard her say it. She told him she was going to leave you, that she had been planning it for months, that she just needed to wait for the right moment to break the news. I stared at her, my mind reeling. "You're sure? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't," she said softly. "I thought you should know." I clenched my jaw, trying to process what I was hearing. Odette had been planning this. This wasn't a sudden realization on her part, some impulsive decision. She had been waiting, biding her time, playing the part of a wife while secretly preparing to leave. My hands curled into fists on the table. Did she say anything else? Celeste hesitated. Then, in a quieter voice, she said, "Yes." She told him she was glad you never suspected anything. That if you knew the truth, it would ruin everything. A bitter laugh escaped me. "Ruin everything," I muttered. I guess she meant her perfect little exit plan. Celeste didn't say anything, but the look on her face said enough. I sat there, staring at the table, my pulse roaring in my ears. I had walked into this meeting hoping for answers, but now that I had them, all I felt was a suffocating sense of betrayal. Odette had never intended to stay. She had been waiting for the right moment to leave, and she had made sure I was the last to know. And now I had to figure out what to do next. I left the coffee shop in a daze. The cold air outside hit me like a slap. My breath came out in uneven puffs as I tried to process everything Celeste had told me. Odette had been planning to leave me for months. She had been lying to my face, pretending to be my wife, sharing a home with me while secretly carving out a future without me. And Wesley, her just a friend, had been in on it the entire time. My mind raced through every moment I had ignored, every excuse she had given, every late night at the office that I had never questioned. Had I really been so blind? Or had I just wanted to believe that the woman I loved would never do something like this? I barely noticed myself getting into my car. My hands were shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. I needed time to think, to breathe, but most of all I needed answers, real ones. Not just the second-hand account of a stranger at a coffee shop, but the undeniable, inescapable truth. So I did something I never thought I would. I went home, sat in front of my laptop, and started going through Odette's digital life. I wasn't proud of it, but at that moment, pride didn't matter. The first thing I checked was our shared cloud storage. We used it for everything. Vacation photos, scanned documents, even reminders she would leave for me when I had appointments. I clicked through folder after folder, but nothing stood out. It was all normal. But then, in a folder simply labeled work, I found something that made my stomach drop, a video file. I hesitated before clicking it. The file name was a jumble of numbers and letters, nothing that indicated what it was. But the moment the video started playing, I felt my entire body go cold. It was security footage, a recording from what looked like a dimly lit restaurant or bar. At first, I didn't understand why Odette had it, until I saw her, sitting across from Wesley. I leaned closer. The timestamp in the corner showed it was recorded 2 weeks ago. In the video, Odette was laughing, relaxed, happy. She reached across the table, touching Wesley's arm in a way that felt far too familiar. Then, as if they had completely forgotten the world around them, they kissed. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My vision blurred as I watched my wife, kissing another man like I didn't even exist. Then, as if the betrayal wasn't enough, I heard her speak. I turned the volume up, my hands clammy against the keyboard. "I'm so tired of sneaking around," Odette said, her voice carrying through the grainy audio. "But it's almost over. He won't see it coming." "He still doesn't suspect anything?" Wesley asked, leaning in. She shook her head, a sly smile on her lips. "Not at all. That's the best part. He thinks we're fine. He still believes in us." The world spun around me. I couldn't listen anymore. I slammed the laptop shut and pushed it away, as if the device itself had burned me. My hands ran through my hair, my breath coming in short gasps. She had been mocking me, laughing at me behind my back. The woman I had trusted more than anyone had looked me in the eyes, told me she loved me, and then turned around and called my faith in her the best part. It was one thing to cheat. It was another to enjoy the deception. I didn't know how long I sat there, staring at the wall. My heart pounded in my chest, my mind racing through emotions I couldn't even name. Anger, humiliation, disbelief. And beneath it all, the quiet, creeping realization that I had no idea who my wife really was. I had spent years believing I knew her thoughts, her dreams, her heart. But the woman in that video, she was a stranger. And I had been nothing more than a fool. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at my closed laptop like it had just shattered my entire existence. Maybe it had. My mind kept circling back to those words Odette had said in the video. That's the best part. He still believes in us. That sentence replayed in my head like a cruel joke. A confirmation that every single moment I had spent thinking I had a loving wife was nothing but an illusion. She had seen my trust, my love, my dedication, and instead of valuing it, she had laughed at it. She had played me. I forced myself to take a deep breath, but it didn't help. My chest still felt tight, like I was suffocating on the weight of everything I had just discovered. I had no idea what to do next. What do you do when the person you thought was your partner in life turns out to be nothing more than a manipulator? Someone who had been setting you up for betrayal for months, maybe even longer. I needed to talk to someone. But who? My family? No, I couldn't call them, not yet. I wasn't ready for the pity, for the inevitable. How did you not see this coming? Questions. My friends, the few I had, weren't exactly the heart-to-heart type. And besides, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear what they'd say. That left only one option. Celeste. The woman who had sent me the message, the only person who had given me any warning, even if it had come too late. I grabbed my phone and scrolled back to the message. Me, I need to know more. Are you free to meet again? I didn't expect an immediate response, but within seconds, the typing bubbles appeared. Celeste, meet me at the same place in an hour. There's more you need to know. That didn't make me feel better. If anything, it made my stomach churn. What else could she possibly tell me? Hadn't I already learned the worst of it? Apparently not. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Celeste was already there, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her. She looked up as I approached, her expression unreadable. Sit, she said, motioning to the chair across from her. I didn't hesitate. Tell me everything, I said, my voice hoarse. Celeste took a sip of her coffee, then set the cup down. I debated whether or not to reach out to you, she admitted. I wasn't sure if you'd believe me, but after what I saw, I couldn't keep quiet. I swallowed hard. You said you overheard Odette and Wesley talking. You told me she'd been planning this for months. But that video I found, it made it clear that this wasn't just about her leaving me. She enjoyed lying to me. That's what hurts the most. Celeste sighed. That's because Odette doesn't just want to leave you, Graham. She wants to ruin you. I stared at her, not sure I had heard correctly. What? She nodded grimly. She didn't just want to walk away clean. She wanted to make sure you came out of this broken, emotionally and financially. She wants you to be the fool, the man everyone pities. And Wesley, he's not just some random affair partner. He's helping her do it. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. How do you know all this? Celeste hesitated for a moment, then leaned in slightly. Because I used to be friends with Wesley a long time ago, before I realized what kind of person he was. I frowned. What do you mean? She sighed. Wesley has a habit of doing this, Graham. He gets involved with women in relationships, but he's not just some cheater. He helps them manipulate their partners. He encourages them to take everything they can before they leave. He's done it before, and he's doing it again with Odette. The world around me blurred. You're saying this is something he does? She nodded. I've seen it happen. He finds women who are already unhappy in their relationships and convinces them they deserve more. More freedom, more excitement, more money. He makes them believe they're victims of their own marriages. and then he helps them plan their escape. But it's never just about leaving. It's about making sure the husband is left with nothing. A sick feeling settled in my stomach. "And Odette?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Celeste's gaze didn't waver. "She's all in, Graham. She's already started moving money out of your accounts, setting herself up so that when she leaves, she'll take as much as she can. And that's not all." I didn't want to ask, but I had to. "What else?" Celeste took a deep breath. "She's been telling people awful things about you. That you're controlling, that you make her feel unsafe, that you have a temper." My jaw clenched. "That's a lie." "I know," Celeste said quickly. "But she doesn't care if it's true or not. She's set the stage, making sure that if you try to fight back, she already has a story in place. If you try to defend yourself, she'll paint you as the angry, bitter ex-husband who just can't handle losing her." A cold chill ran down my spine. Odette had never just been planning to leave me. She had been setting me up, and I had walked right into it. I barely remember driving home that night. My mind was a storm of emotions. Anger, disbelief, humiliation. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It wasn't just that Odette had been cheating or that she had been planning to leave me. It was that she had been crafting an entire narrative behind my back. She wasn't just walking away. She was setting fire to everything in the process. My reputation, my finances, my dignity. The house felt different when I stepped inside, like a hollow shell of what it once was. Everything was still in place. The framed photos on the walls, the coffee mug she always left on the counter, the blanket she curled up with on the couch. But now, it all felt like props on a stage, part of some elaborate performance she had been putting on until she was ready to pull the curtain down on our marriage. I stood in the center of the living room, breathing heavily, trying to ground myself. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit here waiting for the next blow to come. Celeste had given me the warning, but now it was up to me to find proof. If Odette was truly moving money out of our accounts, if she was really spreading lies about me, I needed to get ahead of it before she left me with nothing. I went straight to my laptop. I pulled up our joint bank accounts first. At first glance, nothing seemed off. The balances were what I expected them to be. But when I started going through the transaction history, my stomach tightened. Small withdrawals, nothing huge, just a few hundred here and there, spread out over the past several months. But then, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A new account, one I didn't recognize. Money had been flowing into it in steady amounts, always just under the threshold that would have triggered an alert. She had been siphoning money away for months, slowly, methodically. My pulse pounded as I clicked through transaction after transaction. I traced the deposits back, finding a pattern. She had started doing this almost 8 months ago, around the same time I realized that she had started pulling away from me emotionally. This had never been a sudden decision. It had been a plan. I exhaled shakily, forcing myself to keep looking. I checked her email next, something I had never done before. I felt a pang of guilt at invading her privacy. But then I reminded myself she had destroyed any expectation of trust the moment she decided to treat me like a pawn in her game. At first, it was just normal emails, work, promotions, the usual junk. But then I found them, the messages from Wesley. Some were short, "Can't wait to see you tonight." Others were more damning. "Don't forget to move the next transfer. We need to be careful." But the worst one was from just a few days ago. "Graham still doesn't suspect a thing. I almost feel bad. Almost. But soon it won't matter. He'll have no choice but to accept what's coming." I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. I felt like a fool, a complete and utter fool. But if Odette thought I was going to sit back and let her destroy me, she was wrong. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. That's what she expected me to do. She wanted me to explode, to react emotionally so she could twist it into more evidence for whatever lies she was spreading. No, I needed to be smart. I needed to get ahead of her. I copied every incriminating email and saved them. I took screenshots of the bank transfers, noting every shady transaction. Then I called my lawyer. I had never thought I would need a divorce lawyer, but here I was. When he answered, I kept my voice steady. I need your help, I said. My wife is trying to ruin me. There was a pause. Then he sighed like he had heard this story before. Tell me everything. And so I did. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every possible scenario. How had I been so blind? How had I lived under the same roof with someone who had been plotting against me for months, maybe even longer? The bed felt too big, too empty, and every shadow in the room reminded me that this wasn't my home anymore. Not really. It was a crime scene, the scene of my own humiliation. The morning light creeping through the blinds felt almost mocking. I forced myself to get up, to move, even though I felt like my entire world had been knocked off its axis. I showered, dressed, made coffee like it was any other day, but nothing was normal. I had emailed my lawyer everything the night before. The bank records, the messages between Odette and Wesley, everything that proved this wasn't just a typical divorce. My phone buzzed as I sat at the kitchen table, my untouched coffee growing cold in front of me. Lawyer James? Got your email. This is worse than I expected. Are you free to talk? I called immediately. Graham, James said the moment he picked up. His voice was calm, steady, like he had seen it all before. I went through everything you sent, and I'll be honest with you, you're in trouble, but not the kind you think. I gripped the edge of the table. What do you mean? This isn't just about Odette leaving you, he said. She's setting you up for something bigger. She's already built a story around you, and it's only a matter of time before she plays her hand. I swallowed hard. What kind of story? James sighed. The bank transfers are bad, but what concerns me more is the messaging pattern. The way she's talking about you to Wesley, the way she's been making small comments to people around her. It's all leading to one thing. Which is, she's making it look like you're unstable, like you're the kind of man who might do something reckless after a divorce. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. That's insane. I know it is, James said. But that doesn't mean it won't work. You need to be extremely careful from now on. Don't confront her. Don't text anything angry. Don't do anything that can be twisted to fit her version of events. I exhaled slowly, my grip on the phone tightening. So what do I do? You let me handle it. We file before she does. We freeze the accounts she hasn't touched yet. And you act like nothing has changed. I let out a bitter laugh. You want me to pretend everything is fine? Yes, James said. Because the moment she realizes you know what she's doing, she'll accelerate her plan. She'll go from planting seeds to burning everything down. We can't let that happen. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. All right, what's the first step? By the time Odette walked through the door that evening, I had played my part well. I greeted her the way I always did, with a tired smile and a casual, "Hey, how was your day?" She responded with an equally tired, but much less sincere, "Fine." I watched her closely, seeing her through a new lens. She was playing a role too. The doting but exhausted wife, the woman who was quietly, bravely handling a marriage that was, at least in her carefully crafted version, falling apart. She barely looked at me as she set her bag down and went straight to the fridge, pulling out a bottle of water. I wanted to ask her so many things. Why are you doing this? When did you decide I was nothing more than an obstacle? But I swallowed every single question. Instead, I said, I was thinking we could go out this weekend. Just us. We haven't done that in a while. She hesitated for half a second before forcing a small smile. That sounds nice. It was a lie. I could see it in her eyes. I wasn't the man she wanted to be sitting across from anymore. Wesley was. And yet, she smiled anyway because her game wasn't over yet. But now, neither was mine. For the next few days, I played the part of the oblivious husband. I smiled when Odette spoke to me. I nodded at her stories, feigned interest in things I didn't care about. I even told her I had a work trip coming up, something to keep her from suspecting that I was already working behind the scenes to stop her plan from unfolding the way she intended. The hardest part was pretending that I hadn't seen the messages, that I didn't know about the money she had been shifting around, that I wasn't aware she was telling people I was the kind of man who would crumble under the weight of the divorce or, worse, lash out in some way that could justify the victim narrative she was carefully curating. I had to keep my emotions in check, even when she stayed out late and came home with the scent of cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her clothes, even when I heard her in the other room, whispering on the phone, thinking I was asleep. He still doesn't know. I'll be free soon. Just be patient. Patience. That was the word that stuck with me. She had spent months being patient, setting everything in motion, thinking I was completely blind to it all. Now it was my turn to wait. I spent most of my free time preparing. I met with James, my lawyer, every day, making sure we had everything we needed. The bank records, the proof of her affair, the messages she had sent. Every single thing that exposed her for what she really was. We moved quickly, freezing joint accounts before she could siphon more money away. James drafted the divorce papers, but we didn't file them just yet. She's going to be furious when she realizes she doesn't have access to those funds, he told me. Expect her to act fast. Desperate people make mistakes. That was exactly what I was counting on. The night before I planned to serve her the papers, I did something I never thought I would do. I followed her. I had told her I had a late meeting, that I wouldn't be home until much later. She had nodded, barely hiding her relief. I waited 10 minutes after I left the house, then circled back, parking a few houses down. I didn't have to wait long. Odette walked out of the house, dressed up, hair perfect, makeup flawless. She got into her car and pulled out of the driveway, and I followed at a distance. She didn't go to meet a friend. She didn't go to a work event. She drove straight to Wesley's apartment. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, watching as she stepped inside like she belonged there, like she hadn't spent years calling our house home. I should have felt anger, but all I felt was clarity. Odette had never been my wife, not in the way I had believed. She had been someone else all along, and I had spent years loving a ghost, a mirage of a person who had only been pretending. But tomorrow the illusion would finally shatter, and she would have no idea what was coming. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. It was strange, knowing that the end of my marriage was here and yet feeling nothing but relief. No more lies, no more pretending. Today I was taking my life back. James had the divorce papers ready. I had already frozen the accounts Odette had been secretly funneling money into. And most importantly, I had the evidence. The messages, the transactions, and even the security footage that showed her sneaking around with Wesley. She had spent months playing the long game, carefully crafting her escape, but she had underestimated me. When Odette woke up, she had no idea her life was about to change. She strolled into the kitchen like it was any other day, still wrapped in the false comfort of thinking she was in control. She poured herself a cup of coffee, barely glancing at me. I slid the folder across the table. "Sign these," I said simply. She blinked, confused. "What is this?" "Divorce papers." I leaned back in my chair, watching her reaction. "I figured I'd save you the trouble of pretending you were going to break the news to me when you were ready." Her hand froze on her mug. For the first time in months, she looked genuinely surprised. I let the silence stretch. "I know everything, Odette. The money, the lies, Wesley. You spent months thinking I was clueless, but you were the blind one." I tilted my head slightly. "Did you really think you could walk away with everything and leave me with nothing?" Her face paled. I don't know what you're talking about." I smiled. "You know exactly what I'm talking about, and so does my lawyer, and the bank. And if you don't sign those papers right now, I'm sure your little plan will interest a few more people." Her breath caught in her throat. "You wouldn't." "I would," I said, my voice steady. "You set me up to be the villain, Odette. But the only person who's going to lose everything is you." She hesitated. For a split second, I saw the wheels turning in her mind, looking for a way out, but there wasn't one. I had taken away every escape route she had built for herself. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the pen. She signed her name, her jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might crack. When she was done, I stood up. "You have until the end of the week to get your things." I met her eyes, no longer feeling the pain of betrayal, just the satisfaction of knowing I had one. "After that, you'll be someone else's problem." I walked out of the house that morning and didn't look back. A year later, I was sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Odette had moved in with Wesley, but their relationship hadn't lasted. The fantasy had crumbled under the weight of reality. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had tried reaching out to some of my old friends, looking for sympathy, but no one was interested in playing her games anymore. As for me, I was finally free. The scars of the past were there, sure, but they didn't define me. I had learned, I had grown, and most importantly, I had moved on. I raised my glass to the sky, smiling to myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. The simply living well.